With that, we're going to disappear. We're going to hand it over to Ben to present, and we'll see you guys in a little bit.
Well, thank you, Marielle. Good morning slash afternoon, everybody that is here. We have a great turnout, so I appreciate everyone that has registered and is here to support me. A few quick shout outs. First and foremost, the team at ACE. This couldn't happen without them and their time and effort they put into this. So thank you, Marielle, and Lisa, and Jeff. Appreciate you guys very much. Thank you to the sponsors that are here also to support me. I support them, they support me. They're all great people. So please feel free to reach out to them for any of your needs. I feel comfortable saying that. They'll take care of you as I will. Um, and thank you all for being here. So I'm going to share my screen here. Not with that one. What am I doing? Let me reshare because I shared the wrong screen. So I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. Marielle, you give me a thumbs up that it's
Yep,
good.
definitely. And I'm here if you need me, Ben, just shout.
Cool. Thank you. So I'd like to first start by saying that a lot of the time when we give these courses, we like them to be as interactive as possible. A lot of the time, your questions mean a whole lot more and are beneficial than some of the information that's even in these presentations. So please put your questions in the Q&A. Marielle and or Jeff will be monitoring that and they can interrupt me as we go. I love that. So don't think it's an interruption. It's really beneficial. This course is a 1 hour HR course for community association managers. The title of the course is Installation Safety in a Condominium. We talk about best practices for community association managers and ensuring safe and compliant installation processes. This can be for any project going on at your building. There are some specific things related to window, door, storefront, and railing scopes of work, but really it talks about how to create a safe environment in a workspace. So that handsome guy is myself. I am Ben Friedman. I'm the president of City Quiet Windows and Doors. City Quiet Windows and Doors provides turnkey white glove installation services for all window, storefront, door, and railing projects. Been here in the industry for over 16 years. We contribute a lot: education, philanthropy, construction, and development. We've won lots of awards during our expansion in North Miami. We're centrally headquartered here in our Boca Raton office, as well as offices in Naples and Fort Myers. So, quick introduction here. Let me check time. All right, quick introduction here. This course talks about and gives the ability for community association managers to gain knowledge and tools necessary to ensure a safe installation practice slash environment. We talk about safety regulations, ways to manage risk, and the best practices for overseeing installation projects. There's a main focus on specific safety considerations for impact windows and doors, as I mentioned, but use this and relate it to any project going on at your building. It could be a roofing project, concrete restoration, paving, anything where there are teams of contractors, subcontractors in and around your building, and ways to keep them and the residents safe. So obviously, there's a high importance of safety in condominiums specifically. We ensure resident safety. What that means is we're looking at proper installation practices to minimize the risk of accidents and injuries and ensuring the safety of all residents. Things that we can do to prevent liability or to limit liability, right? There's machinery, there are people, there are cars, there are tools, there are old windows that are sharp and can cut you if you walk into them. Regulatory compliance talks about adhering to Florida's safety regulations and building codes, preventing legal issues and fines, right? That's OSHA, things like that. How do we protect the property? Correct installation of impact windows and doors protects the building from storm damage, enhancing the overall resilience of the property. So that's really creating a safe building, not so much a safe installation, but by installing these windows and doors properly, you're now providing a safe place for residents to potentially stay in the event of Mother Nature coming in and trying to cause some havoc. Community trust, demonstrating a commitment to safety builds trust with residents and enhances the reputation of the community association. Wouldn't it be nice to live in a building or to buy a unit or units at a property that is already equipped with hurricane impact windows and doors, right? They provide all year round hurricane protection. They provide heat reduction. They provide an insurance savings. They provide noise reduction. All of these things are lovely to have, but wouldn't it be nice to have them and not have to go through the process of installing them? Florida safety regulations. So, an overview of relevant building code and safety regulations. The Florida Building Code, also known as the FBC, is designed to ensure that all buildings in the state are safe, accessible, and in some cases, energy efficient. It includes specific requirements for materials, design, and construction to withstand Florida's unique climate changes, such as hurricanes. So, when we talk about the Florida Building Code, we talk about the rules and regulations that are set forth and change every 3 years. The building code changes every 3 years, and the requirements become more and more stringent. There's two ways to look at hurricane impact windows and doors specifically. You have either a Florida Building Code, we'll refer to it as the FBC, an FBC product approval or an FBC certification, or you have what many people know as a Miami-Dade NOA. Miami-Dade NOA stands for a Notice of Acceptance. Those are the two types of certifications that products can have that are tested and certified for use so that they can be used in buildings, permits pulled for them, and know that these products can withstand the vigorous requirements of the Florida Building Code and or Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade requires 175 mile per hour wind speed, where Broward and Palm Beach require only 170. But it's pretty much a standard where we go by Miami-Dade's because we know Miami-Dade has the most stringent code, and why wouldn't we want to conform to that? So you're going to hear a lot of FBC product approval, and you're going to hear a lot of Miami-Dade NOA. There are specific requirements for impact windows and doors. Impact windows and doors are mandatory for all new construction and significant renovations in HVHZ, high velocity hurricane zones, which cover many coastal areas of Florida. So a new building is built, it is mandatory that it has hurricane protection. 99 times out of 100, it's hurricane impact windows and doors. Sometimes it's non-impact hurricane windows and doors, but also a shutter would need to be put on the building. So the point of the story is that when a new building is built, it has to have hurricane protection. You don't have a choice. When you go through a renovation, anytime that there is a structural alteration to a window or door opening, it must be brought up to the current building code. So, for example, you have a concrete restoration project going on. You have a sliding glass door on a balcony that is original from 40 years ago. The concrete restoration company needs to come in and the sliding glass door needs to be removed in order for them to properly perform the restoration work to fix the concrete. That sliding glass door that's 40 years ago old technically is not supposed to go back in because we made a structural alteration. We need to bring it up to the current building code. There are some instances where that does not apply. However, when you're going through these projects, you're seeing stucco projects, paint projects, shutters being removed from buildings and buildings upgrading their glass to become hurricane impact because they want that all year round hurricane protection and they don't want the maintenance team or the engineering team or the management to have to go around and close shutters when and if there is an event of a storm that is imminent. So these windows and doors must be able to withstand high winds and flying debris, reducing the risk of injury and property damage during storms. That's where we talk about the safety. People that have shutters on their buildings that have non-impact windows are not necessarily in a safe place. Why? All shutters do or they block flying debris from hitting the glass and impacting it. What they don't protect is what a hurricane really is, which is a pressure system. So what happens is pressure builds up, and if any of you have shutters on your building, you'll know that when the shutters are closed, you still see little pinholes of daylight coming through. Those pinholes of daylight not only allow light to come in, water to intrude, but air, which is pressure, to intrude. So what happens is pressure builds up between the shutter that's on the outside of the building and the primary window. Well, the pressure has to escape somehow. So the pressure is going to force itself to escape by impacting the path of least resistance, which in the case of shutters and non-impact glass, a lot of the time is the non-impact glass. So a lot of the time what we'll see is we'll see a shutter closed and we'll come in after a storm, but there'll be glass all over someone's home. And the reason for that is because the pressure has built up so much that it needs to escape, it's going to blow the glass in. So that's a safety concern because if people don't leave their homes and they just simply close their shutters, the glass can still break. And now pressure can still get inside their home. They can get hurt from the glass. Pressure can get inside their home. The home can pressurize, and theoretically the roof could blow off. So that's why shutters really aren't the best path. And that's why the safer play is, of course, to have hurricane impact windows and doors. Because when hurricane impact glass breaks, it's the same technology as the front windshield of an automobile. It cracks, it spider webs, but it stays together. You could be driving down I-95 or Florida's Turnpike with a broken windshield, and it could be pouring rain with your windshield wipers on, but no water is ever coming inside the car. That's because that impact glass is staying together as one piece. And then after the storm subsides, you can always change that piece of glass out and not have to go through the full construction of replacing frames and so on and so forth. So impact glass clearly is the safer play. Compliance and documentation requirements. Builders and contractors must obtain building permits from local building departments before installing impact windows and doors. Please don't install impact windows and doors, really, or any product that is required to have a building permit without one. It is not the best play. It is not a safe play. You want to know you're getting a good product with documentation from the building department that has been approved for use. It has gotten all necessary inspections, and that's your peace of mind. That's your safety. The permitting process ensures that the installation meets all safety and performance standard outlined in the FBC, in the Florida Building Code. So again, please don't go to Home Depot and replace your windows yourself. Please don't hire, what I call the guy in the truck or the gal in the truck that's advertising cheap impact window and door installations or cheap roofing systems because they don't have the necessary requirements. It's not that they're being cheap and they don't want to pull a permit. It's that they probably don't have the correct insurance. They may not be licensed and they may not be legitimate. And when you have an issue down the road, because there's always going to be issues, you want to be able to tie it back to a legitimate contractor and or a legitimate product if the contractor is no longer around, where you can exercise warranties and see the documentation that's kept on file with the building department that you pulled proper permits, it was inspected, and this way when you go to exercise a warranty, the manufacturers are going to be quick to honor those warranty items. Homeowners undertaking renovations must also comply with these regulations to avoid increased insurance rates and ensure their properties are protected. Again, please don't go to Home Depot, buy windows, and install them yourselves. If you want to, you can, but you need to pull a homeowner building permit as well. You can't just go around and do these types of structural alterations without permits. If the building department comes by and they see work going on without a permit, they will red tag your door. They will stop the project and you will be fined and you won't be able to restart your project until a permit has been placed and approved for your property. So next, identifying safety risks, right? This is where we get into things that can go wrong, things we look out for at properties, common safety hazards during installation, manual handling and lifting. Okay. Installing impact windows and doors often involves heavy lifting, which can lead to injury, particularly in the lower back. Overhead work can also cause neck and shoulder strain. These are the types of things, of course, we have to put in these presentations where it's safety related. Point of the story is that impact windows and doors are super heavy. When we work with our installation teams, we're ensuring that they have proper PPE equipment while they're working. Talk about overhead work. Hard hats need to be worn, glasses need to be worn. There's flying debris. Um, these impact windows and doors are super heavy. So yes, it is very grueling, lifting them, and sometimes people are wearing braces in order to do that. We also use other types of equipment to maneuver impact glass so that it isn't just putting an impact window and door on your back and walking it around. We'll use hoists, we'll use cranes, we'll use lifts in order to get those impact windows and doors to their home or to their opening. Fall protection. Workers are at risk of falling from ladders, scaffolding, elevated work areas during installation. Contractors that may be on this Zoom, please make sure your extension cords are inspected from time to time, that they're not frayed, that ladders aren't leaning up on the side of a building or a workspace. If OSHA comes by and they see that, you're looking at probably a $10,000 fine. Cuts and punctures. Handling glass and other materials can result in cuts and punctures if proper safety gear is not used. Again, use of PPE equipment, gloves, glasses, right? Old windows and doors have what we would call crude glass or annealed glass in there. That's very, very sharp. That will cut you, cut our team. So we ensure the safety of our own team and the people we're working around so that we limit that type of exposure. So some of the techniques, of course, with assessing the risk: hazard identification, regulatory inspect the worksite to identify potential hazards such as unstable ladders, sharp objects, and heavy loads. Posted placards, signs, caution tapes, cones, all of those things should be on job sites. OSHA regulations, all of those things need to be on job sites. Again, in a specific area, they need to be posted. JSA, job safety analysis, making sure that we conduct a detailed analysis of each step in the installation process to identify risk and implement control measures. Talk about working on swing stages. Every single morning when we show up to a job site, we have a job site safety meeting. The safety meeting goes to the roof with a team to inspect that the swing stages are still properly installed. Nothing happened overnight, nothing moved around, nothing ripped, frayed. That is a daily thing where a logbook needs to be kept for the potential accident where there could be a claim, workers' comp, whatever, someone gets hurt, there's a fatality. All of that stuff is done daily so that we reduce the risk of that, not only for ourselves, but also at the properties that we're working on. The safety of people around us, right? So people are residents are walking in and out of these buildings while there's work going on overhead. Need to make sure that it's properly protected and there's equipment in place to prevent, falling debris and things like that. Use of PPE. We all know what PPE is. It's personal protective equipment. We ensure all of our workers are equipped with appropriate PPE equipment, gloves, safety glasses, harnesses. You know, a harness has a rope grab, it has a lanyard attached to it. All of those things need to be inspected on a daily basis to make sure that if and when there is an accident, these proper protocols that are in place and implemented will save somebody or multiple people's lives. Because accidents do happen. Where did we go? We went backwards too far. Sorry, guys and gals. All right, so here we are. This talks about best practices for installation safety. This is part one of it. So a pre-installation safety check. Ensuring proper permits and approvals, verifying that all the permits and approvals are obtained before starting the project. If the permit is not on site and it's not posted for a building inspector to see and sees work going on, they will stop the job. You do not want any of that happening. That creates delays, that puts a bad taste in the inspector's mouth for the next time they come back for an inspection, and it causes financial implications. There'll be fines. Inspecting of the work site or the job site. Daily conduct a thorough inspection of the work site to identify and address any potential hazards. What changed from yesterday to today? Are there more cars in the parking lot? Are we working in a different area where there are people walking to and from the beach underneath we're working today where we weren't working yesterday? Um, Putting up proper, decoys and deterring people and creating a separate path of traffic for them or for their cars. For example, we're working today at a condominium association in Hollywood Beach. We're doing 350 windows throughout the entire building, but all of the ground level as well. The ground level includes their main entrance, which has a valet in front. 90% of the building is an Airbnb building. It's a condominium association. There are people constantly coming and going. Uber Eats is constantly coming and going. We needed to create a safety plan for them to redirect traffic so that they're not walking through our work area, creating the potential for an accident and or slowing down the work. Safety training, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, ensuring that all workers have received adequate safety training and understand the safety protocols specific to the installation of impact windows and doors. Yes, there is blanket OSHA training, safety training, swing stage training, but how about training for handling impact windows and doors or handling old windows and doors, right? I unfortunately witnessed an accident not on one of our job sites, but we were called in as a witness whereby the old windows were coming out. They had very sharp original glass called annealed glass. Window broke, no problem. The subcontractor put his arm through the window and airspace, let's call it, and there was a little piece of glass still dangling from the top. Sure enough, timing was terrible. The piece of glass fell, cut his entire arm, had to be rushed to the hospital. So, yes, there are blanket safety measures that go into place for any type of construction. However, for windows and doors, there are additional things that we need to think about that may and can go wrong. So, to be continued here, best practices for installation safety, putting safety protocols in place during the installation, not only doing inspections and looking at what kind of safety hazards there are before, but now we're going to talk about during the installation. So, PPE equipment, again, ensuring that all of the workers are wearing appropriate PPE equipment, gloves, safety glasses, hard hats, harnesses, long pants, right? Long pants can prevent somebody from getting cut, let's say. Steel toe shoes, boots, right? No tennis shoes. All of those things that we want to put out there to limit the liability. Safe handling of materials and tools, as I said, using proper lifting techniques and or equipment to handle product to prevent injury. Not only does somebody get hurt, they're out of work. The company then suffers because it's one less worker that we value out on our job sites. The project suffers because there's one less person working there, so it's not as efficient. So really making sure all the tools are in good condition, they're used correctly, securing the work area, as I mentioned before, using barriers, signage to secure the work area and keep residents and other non-essential personnel away from the installation site. I can't see, but I would usually at this point in person say, can I see a show of hands of how many property managers and or board members have had to tell their residents to stay away from the work area? People are curious. They want to know what's going on and or they have nothing better to do. So they're snooping around. There's dangerous stuff. There are, you know, saws and there are again, like I said, there's debris. So there's old windows. The metal is sharp. People, someone walks by that and cuts their leg. There's a huge, huge, lawsuit and exposure to liability because we didn't properly secure the work area. Part three, post-installation safety measures. What do we do at the end of a job to make sure that the job site has been properly secured and is a safe place to now release back or certain areas to give back to the community, right? Final inspections, conducting a final inspection to ensure that all work has been completed safely and to the required standards. This is a final inspection from the city. This is a final walkthrough from the contractor. This is a final walkthrough with a representative of the association to make sure that yes, the permits are closed out. Yes, things are cleaned up properly. Oh, by the way, you forgot a piece of plywood in the back parking lot or what have you. All of those, what happened here? All of those walkthroughs and final inspections are very important to giving back this area to the residents and to the association. Cleaning up and debris removal, ensure all debris and waste materials are properly disposed of to prevent hazards. I like to suggest that this is done daily and it's not done at the end of a project. Again, sharp metal. You are a unit owner and you are adamant that you want to be in your unit during this removal of these windows and doors and installation of them. No problem. We take out the old windows and doors. They're sharp. We put them on the swing stage or put them in an elevator right away and get rid of them. I've seen contractors put them on a dolly or on a drywall rack and move them out into the hallway. And now when they've created enough garbage or debris to take a trip down the elevator to throw it out so it makes sense for them in their mind, what happens? They leave this debris in the middle of the hallway, and Mrs. Jones's neighbor opens the door and goes to leave and trips and falls over it. Cleaning up and removal of debris should be done daily. It should be done at the time the debris and the cleanup is needed, not at the end of the day, not at the end of the week. When the windows and doors are removed, get rid of them. Verifying compliance with safety standards. Check that all installation meets all relevant safety standards and building codes. We talk about safety standards. Let's all think about this for a second. You have a window in a bedroom. It lifts up and down. The window sill height is below 34 or 36 inches from the finished floor. You lift that window up and it's tough to open. So it's tough to open. You go ahead, you open it up and you lose your balance. You fall out the window. That's a safety hazard. So there are precautions that are put into place by the fire department, actually, whereby if windows and doors open greater than 4 inches, okay, so that would be lifting the window open or sliding the window open more than 4 inches, and the window sill height is below 34 or 36 inches from the finished floor height, there is a limiter that needs to be applied onto the window so that it can only open 4 inches as opposed to fully opening because they look at that as a safety hazard and for fall protection. So remember that. Sill height, less than 34 or 36 inches from the finished floor, that window can only technically open 4 inches. Communication and coordination. This is the biggest piece. If you have good communication and great coordination with other contractors that are on site, with residents, with management companies, you should have a pretty smooth ride. So communicating, safety protocols to contractors. Clearly communicate all safety protocols and expectations to contractors before the start of the project. This is the board of directors. This is the management company. Communicate what your expectation is to your contractor for any project so that they can ensure that they implement that before and while they are on the job site. Regularly review safety practices with the installation team. This is during the project. Have weekly meetings with the team. My team, project in Hollywood Beach, every Friday morning, 10 a.m., we meet. Engineer, property manager, board of directors, contractor, and any other contractors, which happen to be a concrete restoration company, all meet for an hour and we talk about everything. We talk about scheduling, we talk about safety, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we work that out for the upcoming weeks. Coordinating with residents to minimize disruptions. Informing residents about the installation schedule and any potential disruptions. Town hall meetings are great. Residents log on to Zoom. They can hear what's going to happen. We create a level of expectation for them. We answer questions. These are great things to do. Have them in person, have them over Zoom, whatever it may be, but it allows for residents to communicate their concerns and it allows us to communicate to them what their expectations should be. Provide clear instructions on how to stay safe during the installation process. Don't come on our job site where there's caution tape and walk through it like it doesn't exist because there is an opportunity for liability at that point. There is a safety hazard. So if we can provide clear instructions on how to get from your unit to the pool without creating an accident, that is going to alleviate a lot of stress. And you have that ability to do that through town hall meetings and through Zoom chats with residents before a project, during the project, and after. Documentation and reporting procedures for safety incidents. Establish procedures for documenting and reporting any safety incidents or near misses. So documenting all of that, having a safety logbook on site, having safety inspections, ensuring that all incidences are investigated and appropriate corrective actions are taken. If there's an accident, you are going to see the contractor reach out to their insurance company, work comp, liability, whatever it may be. All of that needs to be documented because it's happening on your, if you're a community association manager on this Zoom, it's happening on your property. So here's some things and some tips and tricks for the community association manager. What are the responsibilities of the community association manager in overseeing installation projects? Overseeing the installation process to ensure compliance with safety protocol and building code. Coordination between contractors, residents, and other stakeholders to facilitate smooth project execution. It is not your job as a community association manager, and I say this again, it is not your job to be the general contractor. You have your own job. And I know because I meet with lots of you weekly, daily, your job is extensive and we get it. We as contractors get it. We don't want you to have another job or another item on your plate, which is being the general contractor. A lot of the time, that's why we suggest boards hiring owners reps or project management companies so that they can handle the coordination. They can handle the communication. They can get us in and out of units daily. They can create the security in and out of units. Managers, we know how hard you work and we appreciate that. But what you don't need to do is be the general contractor. And when your board tells you that this is your project in the nicest way possible, sit back and say, my plate is full. I am not a GC. And if I was, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now.
Hey Ben, I'm going to interject. What you just said, vital, absolutely vital for any manager or board member. As many of you know, I work with attorneys quite a bit, and it's a very same kind of sentiment. If you try to do more for less now and try to skimp getting the expert opinions and the expert answers and the people who really have the credentials to do what you're talking about, if you try to skimp in the beginning, ends up costing you a lot more later. Get it done right the first time and get to your experts. Good point, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, it's and I sat in one yesterday, and if the individuals on the Zoom, you'll know who you are. I sat in one yesterday, and the property manager sat there, the board member sat there, the owner's rep sat there, and I sat there. And it's for a project that they're trying to kick off. They need to get funding for it, but they're doing restoration. And now they want to add the windows and doors to the project. They never thought about it in the beginning. And the treasurer of the board is trying to be the general contractor. And it is very difficult in the most professional way to sit there and say, do you want to buy my company? Because if you do, it's all yours. They literally are penny pinching, trying to be the general contractor, telling the owner's rep, we'll take care of this one. You guys don't have to oversee it because they're going to charge a fee. It's very, very frustrating. So please, when you plan for these projects, I suggest also planning on having someone or some entity run them for you. It is not your job to run these projects. I appreciate all of you community association managers and what you do every single day. So, best practices for managing contractor relationships: establishing clear communication channels and maintaining regular contact with contractors. Yes, you're not the general contractor. However, if we can't get into a unit or a resident is being difficult, whether it's us as the contractor or the owner's rep, are going to have to get the community association manager involved to have that person stand down, have that person give us access, have that person wake up in the morning because we need to get in early and start our project. So having great communication channels is extremely important. Setting expectations for performance and safety standards. I mean, that's something that we provide, but the community association manager also is going to say, oh, by the way, your safety plan looks great, but maybe you missed this, and then we'll incorporate it, or we'll tell them how, it's already incorporated, but you just don't see the language per se. I'm just moving my thing here. Ensuring ongoing safety and compliance. Conducting regular safety audits and inspections on job sites. They should be done regularly. It shouldn't be, oh, let me go check my equipment and make sure the hydraulic oil in my forklift is not leaking all over someone's parking lot. I mean, that's a safety hazard. Staying updated on changes in safety regulations and building codes. The building code changes every 3 years. Likely, it's not going to change in the middle of one of your projects, but it is going to constantly evolve. And you, as community association managers, come to these webinars or these Zooms because you want to be in the know and you want to stay up to date with it. That's all I got, Jeff. I'd love to open it up for Q&A and anything else that you guys have for me. I am here for as long as you need me.
Sounds
Excellent.
great. Hey, Marielle is back, and before Marielle and yourself handle some of the Q&A, I just want to quickly mention to everybody, if you haven't already done so, like Marielle mentioned earlier, press the chat button now, simply so it appears. Don't worry that it's going to say chat is disabled. We can still send stuff your way. I'm going to wait about 30 seconds, then I'm going to place that required evaluation link into the chat area. So press that chat button now so it shows up. Ladies and Ben, back to you.
I'll just one more thing to add, sorry. As far as the HR credit, everybody, once I get all the managers that were here for the Zoom, give it I would say till the middle of next week to see those credits through the DBPR. Please.
Awesome. Thanks for saying that and setting that expectation. Um, Wonderful. And then let's see. I see that Jeff put the evaluation link in the chat, so go ahead and grab that. You can just simply open it and fill it out, once we're finished with the session. We do have a couple questions here, and I encourage you guys to use this time to ask any questions to Ben that you might have. Maybe there's something that you're dealing with within either your own association or with your clients, if you're a CAM. So we have Jenny who asks, should we as managers wait until all permits are approved before allowing the work to start?
Absolutely. And I'll elaborate because the easy answer is yes. However, I'm using the example of the project I'm doing right now in Hollywood, and we kind of just started it because the permit took a while. You have permits, master permits, and you have sub permits. So just because you have a master permit for concrete restoration doesn't necessarily allow you to also be doing windows and doors. There is a window and door sub permit that we have for that project. In our scenario here that we're working on right now in Hollywood, the window sub permit was approved before the concrete restoration as a whole permit. So we theoretically were able to go in and start doing the windows and doors before they started doing the concrete repairs that they needed to do. We didn't do any of that because a lot of the concrete repairs are around the window and door openings, and they would have needed to be done at the same time. So again, there are master permits and then there are sub permits, and it is for specific work. So yeah, the answer is all permits for any scope of work should be on site before that work commences.
All right, thank you. And Jenny continues, she says, I personally had to have legal counsel involved to gain unit access. Some owners are extremely difficult.
Right. So totally, Jenny, I get it. Um, Very difficult. We have these town halls, we have these expectations. I'm sure your bylaws read similar to a lot of others that if they don't give you access, you send them a legal letter and can get in within a certain period of time, what have you. But it slows down a project, right? Because if it's our intention to go into 6 units in a day and it's based off of our work schedule and we have liquidated damages at the end of a job, but we can only get into 5 that day and it took us 2 hours knocking on the door, waiting for them to get up, shower, get changed, and get out, that's one less unit we can do in that day. So that kind of screws things up as it goes along all the way at the end too.
We have Mitchell who asks, is there a general checklist that we could use to identify the key critical components?
For safety.
Mitchell, maybe you can elaborate, as well as Cheryl. I know Cheryl asks, how would that work for HOA associations?
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Mitchell.
Yeah, HOA associations, obviously it's not a vertical structure. So HOAs, I'll give an example. I don't know if Paving Lady team, Morrow or Dawn are on here or not. And if they are, I'm happy to have them jump in. But I just went through a paving project. I live in an HOA, in a Castle HOA. And they did a heck of a job, redirecting traffic and putting up signs and letting us know through email when certain gates, security gates were going to be open versus closed. So yeah, in an HOA, it's a little bit different because there's, a lot more, let's say, cars going through the community than there are elevators going up and down. But a lot of this stuff still stands true. It's, you know, safety. They're doing the tennis courts or what have you in an HOA. Well, there's tools and there's machinery and there's debris, and a lot of the same things you would do in a vertical structure are the same in an HOA, whereby you need to provide safety for the residents and the people that are physically conducting the work.
Thank you. Excuse me. So Mitchell is confirming yes. Is there any general checklist that we could use to identify the key critical components as it relates to safety?
Um, I think we I think we can share something with Mitchell. If Marielle, you want to get his email, we can share, a brief, things to look for before, during, and after for sure. Things that we look for, and some contractors may look for some of the same stuff, more stuff, less stuff, but we can provide a general list, sure.
Yeah, he says when viewing a site, things that should be obvious to us or not. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
yes. I mean, look, an obvious thing is you have swing stages hanging off the side of the building. If they don't look like they're level and straight and they look one-sided and lopsided, there may be something wrong with one of the motors on that swing stage. And you may have a scenario where it continues to do this and eventually falls. right? So there are obvious things. What are some other obvious things like uh, a contractor has a work area. If you go over to that work area and it looks like it's neat and tidy and organized, that's great. If their stuff is all over the place and they have wires running all over and people tripping over stuff, those are obvious safety issues that need to be addressed because if not, you're going to have an accident.
I'm curious. I'm curious, and I don't want to put you too much on the spot, Lisa, but I'm curious if there's anything you wanted to share, like stuff that maybe as a board member or board president that you maybe didn't know or wish you knew before starting a window and door project. And again, I don't mean to put you on the spot here.
Well, you don't know this, but I'm actually about to start a window and door project
Oh,
in our clubhouse, and we're in the permitting phase. So, without talking too much about my personal experience, I will say this in my community, but I will say this, the process of going through that checklist of what you should be looking for and paying attention to, I think is critically important. And like Ben is discussing uh, regarding the paving lady, right? And the paving project he just went through. I think that whether you're in an HOA, a condo, co-op, the key is the communication between your vendor, the board and management, and your residents. The better the communication, the more clarity you can give everyone, the easier the project is going to be. I think sometimes what happens is boards and management companies put out communication, they put it out once, maybe twice, but they don't do a sufficient job, and that's on us as board members. Um, they don't do a sufficient job of communicating with residents. So that, mind you, there's always residents and stragglers that say, I didn't see that, I didn't know that, I didn't read that, I didn't open that email, I didn't come to that board meeting, I didn't see that posted in the clubhouse, right? So sometimes no matter what you do, you're not going to reach everybody. But I think in general, the better the communication can be, the more advanced notice you can give people for any major project and allowing residents to know who to contact for what problem, right? That's key is getting people to contact the right people, right? In the right format. Ben, I don't know if you agree with that, but I think sometimes communication gets lost and it doesn't, the concerns or the things happening don't get to the right people. So I think the communication is probably key to this project, windows and doors, or any other major project.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the manager should have direct communication to whomever the manager of the project who's on site every single day should have their 911 on their phone.
Sure.
Um, and it's not because they want to call them at 8 o'clock at night and annoy them. It's because at 6 o'clock, a resident can't unlock their sliding glass door.
Right.
Or even more so, hey, by accident, you guys might have the master key to unit 101 and the resident's locked out. Can you tell me where it is? Or, hey, the window wasn't sealed and shut properly on Friday and it rained like crazy on Saturday and it's wet inside. Do you have any suggestions? So, yeah, if you have that support, let's call it,
Sure.
and that list of the players involved in the project that need to be available. And again, it's not need to be available because someone's remote from their television went missing. Um, you know, it
It's
really,
the real things that residents face when there are large projects that happen at off hours, right? Off,
yes, like
off
right.
hours.
So we work a lot in like in a condominium association or in a hotel lobby where they have automated sliding glass doors as they're in and out. Maybe they have a power surge, maybe they have a power failure, and the door is staying open and it won't close, or the door is closed and it won't open. Well, that's a safety hazard. So what do we do? Well, we call the first person on the list and we figure out, well, how can we manually open or manually close that door until the company can come back out there and fix the mechanism, you know?
Right. And so I'm also talking about the reverse, which is where, right, the managers that are still on this call, you all know you work exceptionally hard to make sure that residents get the information. And part of my comments about, good channeled communication is so that you're not inundated with a million questions and pieces of communication, during a major project that you're focused on, and managing residents' expectations, right? So making sure that the channels are clearly communicated of who to call or email at what point, when, and why, kind of eliminates a lot of that resident conversation where you could find yourself for hours just answering emails, the same question over and over and over again. So, but yes, critically important to have that all lined up and who has what knowledge at what time of day and who's responsible for what. You're on mute, Mariel. I don't think
We
you.
have one more question from Mitchell, which, we may have touched on a little bit, but what are the what are the top 3 to 5 items that a county inspector will look for when they come out that we should be able to identify prior to their visit?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, well, when it comes to window and door specifically, the county is really coming, unless it's a surprise visit from OSHA, let's say, or the fire department, the county is really coming out to make structural inspections of our work. So what they're looking for is that, and not necessarily looking for that we're working in a safe environment, right? When the city comes out to inspect our stuff, they're looking to make sure that there's a label on every single window, and that label is the product approval number and the style and series of product that we put in and applied for a permit to use. So they're going to come and they're going to look to see, okay, product approval number 20.12345.01 that we, as the building department, approved for use at this building is in fact what was installed because the window will have a label on it that will say that. So they're going to first and foremost look at the permit package to see A, that there's the permit is there, B, that there's what we call a notice of commencement on site, and C, what product is being used and did they use the product. Okay, now they said they were going to use product 20.12345, and that's what they did use. Now, within product 20.12345, there are different screws, fasteners, that can be used to achieve different engineering requirements. There's 1/4 inch Tapcons, there's 5/16 inch Tapcons, there's number 14 self-tapping screws. What did they say they were going to use? They said they were going to use 1/4 inch diameter, 3 1/4 inch length concrete Tapcon, Ultracon Tapcons. Hey, Mr. Installer, please show us the screws that you're using. Well, we said we were using 3 1/4. Here's the 3 1/4 by 1/4. Okay, great. They've now seen that. Okay. And then they look through the product approval and say, this window, based on this size and this engineering requirement, requires 20 screws all the way around. He's going to go and he's going to count to see that there's 20 screws all the way around. Then he's going to say, well, what type of sealants did y'all say that you were going to use? Well, we said we were going to use Dow Corning 995, whatever it is. Okay, please show us the empty bottle of the Dow Corning 995 that you used. So those are the kinds of things that the inspector looks at when it comes for a window and door inspection. He looks to see shim space. What shim space is it's theoretically the airspace between the window frame and the concrete. It cannot exceed, based on product approvals, a certain amount. Let's say 1/4 inch or even 1/2 of an inch. So if he sees big gaps in there, he's going to say, oh, they used the wrong window, or they mismeasured it and they tried to slide it in. He's going to look for obvious things like that. He's going to look that every hole has a screw in it, that there's no excessive gaps for air and leakage to get in and out. He's going to look to see that there's a good waterproofing, or what we would call caulking bead, on the exterior of the window.
Thank you for like detailing all of that. Some really interesting stuff that, you know, you wouldn't really think about or know about unless you are in a position like yourself. Um, and then, you know, Jenny is kind of adding on to our conversation earlier about communication. She says, I usually communicate to residents by email blast with updates and time frame, which is makes perfect sense. And Mitchell says, phenomenal, thanks.